Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thanks for coming back. This week we're looking at the BR Blue Class 55s, the Deltics. Now, this is not a particularly long video compared to some of our recent ones. After all, there were only 22 Deltics and it was a long time ago, so photos are harder to find. But nevertheless, we've got a good collection for you to look at in this video. The Class 55 wasn't really a class I had much to do with myself, although I did have the privilege of working for Virgin Cross Country under Mr. Andrew Hull, who was instrumental in getting D9000 involved with cross country work. And I was lucky enough to be SHQ on the day that the first run was organised, and had the tip to get down to Banbury to have that loco from Banbury to Birmingham New Street, which was nice to actually have a haulage of a Deltic on the main line, despite the fact that they'd finished many years earlier. So enjoy the video. Don't forget to like, share, and as always I ask you to subscribe if you haven't already. We're nearly at that 1,000 subscribers. It would be great to get there with this video. Enjoy. Few locomotives have captured the imagination of rail fans quite like the British Rail Class 55, better known simply as the Deltic. With their unmistakable growl, streamlined bodies and record-breaking performance, the Deltics weren't just another generation of diesel power. They were a statement, Britain's bold leap into the future of high-speed rail. In today's video, we're diving into the story of these remarkable machines, their origins, technology and service, and how they became icons that they are today. This is the story of the Deltics. To understand the Deltic, we have to go back to the early 1950s. British Railways was facing a dilemma. Steam was still king, but it was clear that its reign was ending. The future lay in diesel and electric traction, faster, cleaner, and cheaper to run. However, early British diesel designs were often underpowered. They couldn't yet match the raw performance of express steam locomotives like the A4s or the Coronations. Enter Napier. The engineering firm D. Napier and Son had developed an extraordinary engine for the Royal Navy, a compact, high-power marine diesel with a triangular arrangement of cylinders. The result was a distinctive shape and a name to match, the Deltic engine, after the Greek letter delta. This engine was small, light, and incredibly powerful for its size, perfect for a new generation of high-speed trains. In 1955, English Electric, Napier's parent company, proposed building a prototype locomotive using not one but two of these engines. The result was the English Electric DP1, the prototype Deltic. When it appeared in 1955, it stunned both engineers and the public. Painted in striking cream and blue, it looked more like a futuristic streamliner than a working locomotive. But beneath that sleek exterior lay serious power, over 3,300 horsepower, making it the most powerful diesel locomotive in the world at the time. The prototype ran extensive trials on the East Coast Main Line, and the results spoke for themselves: faster acceleration, higher sustained speeds, and remarkable reliability. British Railways were convinced. The Deltic concept was approved for full production. Between 1961 and 1962, 22 production locomotives were built by English Electric at the Vulcan Foundry in Noonley Willows. They were officially designated the British Rail Class 55. Each one housed two 18-cylinder Napier Deltic engines, producing a combined output of 3,300 horsepower. That might not sound impressive by modern standards, but in the early 1960s it was revolutionary. Remember, this was an era when most British rail diesels struggled to exceed 2,000 horsepower. The Deltics could haul express passenger trains at sustained speeds of 100 miles per hour, a feat previously reserved for the most elite steam locomotives. They were given names, often after famous regiments of the British Army. We saw the Royal Scots Grey, the Green Howards, the Black Watch, and the King's Own Yorkshire Light Infantry, to name a few. From the very beginning, they were painted in a distinctive two-tone green livery, later replaced by the familiar British Rail blue with yellow ends. Their base of operations was the East Coast Main Line linking London King's Cross with Edinburgh and Aberdeen, and soon the Deltics would become synonymous with that route. When the Class 55s entered service, they transformed the East Coast Main Line almost overnight. Before their arrival, expresses between London and Edinburgh were still largely hauled by steam, often requiring a change of locomotive along the way. The Deltics changed all that. Their immense power meant they could handle the entire journey in one go, maintaining high speeds over long distances. The result was a dramatic improvement in timings. The flagship service, the Flying Scotsman, cut its journey time by up to an hour. Passengers noticed, and so did the press. The Deltics quickly became symbols of modernity and efficiency, often described as thoroughbreds of the rails. But their performance wasn't just about speed. They had a distinctive sound, a deep, throbbing growl that built into a fierce mechanical roar as the revs climbed. Train spotters could hear them approaching from miles away, and their sleek, muscular shape made them instantly recognizable, long, low, and unmistakably powerful. For the next 2 decades, the Deltics ruled the East Coast. They hauled prestigious services like the Flying Scotsman, the Talisman, and the Aberdonian. They were so dependable that crews grew deeply attached to them. Many drivers swore by the Deltics' responsiveness and reliability. But time, as always, would catch up. By the late 1970s, change was coming again. British Rail was modernising once more, and this time the next revolution was electric. The East Coast Main Line was due for electrification, but even before that, newer diesel locomotives like the Intercity 125 HSTs, the high-speed trains, were entering service. Compared to the new high-speed trains, the Deltics were expensive to maintain. Their twin engines required complex overhauls, and spare parts for the Napier engines were becoming scarce. In 1979, British Rail announced that the Class 55s would be withdrawn by 1982. Rail enthusiasts across the country were devastated. A farewell tour was organised, known as the Deltic Scotsman Farewell. Enthusiasts crowded stations and line sides to witness the final runs, and there are some images in the series here of that train. On 2nd of January 1982, the last official Deltic train, as referred to there, the Deltic Scotsman, made its journey from King's Cross to Edinburgh and back. When it rolled back into the terminus at King's Cross that evening, the crowd erupted in applause. The event was even covered by national TV at the time. An era had ended. Thankfully, the Deltic story didn't end there. Of the 22 locomotives built, 6 were preserved and several remain operational today. Preservation groups like the Deltic Preservation Society and Deltic 9000 Locomotives Limited ensured that these machines would never be forgotten. Today, the locos continue to appear on heritage railways and occasionally on mainline charters. When one of those fires up, the unmistakable Napier growl echoes once again, a living, breathing link to Britain's railway past. The Deltics also inspired a deep cultural legacy. Their combination of power, beauty, and technology turned them into icons appearing in books, model railways, documentaries, and even music. For many enthusiasts, they represent the golden age of British diesel traction, when engineering ambition met elegance and the sound of progress thundered down the rails. The Deltics weren't just locomotives, they were pioneers. They bridged the gap between steam and modern traction, proving that diesels could deliver high-speed performance on Britain's main lines. Even today, more than 60 years after their debut, the sight and sound of a Deltic still turns heads and stirs hearts. Because when that engine growls to life, you're not just hearing machinery, you're hearing history. Thanks very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the narration for this video and enjoyed looking back at the Britain's greatest Deltic locomotives. Please do like, share, subscribe, and share your favourite Deltic memory in the comments below. I'll leave you to enjoy the last few minutes of the images we've got for you in the video. Okay, so I know they're not BR blue, but given my personal involvement with D9000 whilst working at Virgin, I thought I'd throw a couple of images of the two-tone green livery carried by that loco whilst it was working for us at Virgin, and one of the really bizarre purple livery that number 16 carried. So I hope you accept my apologies for ruining the BR blue with a few of those that just felt they had to be in. So now we'll go back and have a look at this day in history feature with the logbooks from Salty Loco Shed. Not expecting to see any Class 55s on here anyway, even though it's 2 or 3 years too late. But this is 40 years ago from the anniversary date of this video being uploaded to YouTube, so the 29th of October 1985, and this image covers the period 21:55 on the 27th of October through to 00:45 on the morning of the 30th of October. The most interesting feature for me on here is on the first page, 33065 coming onto Saltley. Doesn't say what off or where from. 13:40 on the Monday. Quite sure why at the start of the page there's a big gap between midnight and 7 a.m. and whether there was a strike perhaps, or whether the TOPS office was shut, all the phones were down or something, but not seen that before in these books. So yeah, Class 33 coming on, not the most common thing at Saltley, otherwise all the usual run-of-the-mill stuff. Pair of low-numbered 20s on there, 20013 and 047 and 37s. See, I was there at some point on that day because my handwriting there, 58031 at 4 a.m. on the 29th. Must have been on nights that week. Anyway, hope you enjoy perusing that image. Thanks very much. Me again. Just asking one more time for a like, share, and really after a subscribe to get us to that 1,000 subscribers. So click that subscribe button and share with your friends to see if you can get them too as well. Thanks.